and welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Hines, the Last Angry Geek. And we're going to talk about another film I just saw. We're going to talk about Deadpool 2. Now, I really loved the first Deadpool movie. Ryan Reynolds was great. The humor was off the chart. It was a wonderful origin story. It was a really well-told superhero film. And Deadpool 2 is not. It's a good film. I enjoyed it. It's not great. It's just good. The problem is Deadpool 2 is kind of all over the place. It doesn't know what movie it wants to be. It's trying to be a love story. It's trying to be a revenge story. It's trying to be a buddy film. It's trying to be a team movie. I mean, it's a little jumbled up, and that hurts the film. The humor is still good, but the problem I had is that they were relying on a lot of the same jokes from the last film. When they were new with their humor, it was much better. When they were just doing like Ryan Reynolds started in Green Lantern. He was in that terrible Wolverine movie as Deadpool. You know, those were the parts that just weren't working as well, because we've already done that. Let's talk about the actors. Of course, Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson, Deadpool. The funny thing about this one was I probably enjoyed his serious moments more than I enjoyed his funny moments in this one. The whole relationship with Vanessa, I mean, that stuff was really touching when they decided to have a family, when he talks about how much he misses her. You know, you can really tell that his heart's broken. The chemistry between Monica Barakin and Ryan Reynolds is still as strong as it was in the first film. The humor is still good. Like I said, I felt they were playing the R-rated card a little too hard, especially when they were making jokes about prison rape with the kid. Like, you're going to have to win the award for softest mouth. I'm like, oh, really? Raping a kid? That's the joke we're telling? Okay. I mean, I'm kind of that mindset that there should be no topics off limit for the sake of humor, for the sake of a joke. And yeah, people were laughing, but that was a little in poor taste, I thought. And like I said, when he was telling jokes about like making him lame like Hawkeye, when he was making fun of the DC universe, that kind of stuff, that new stuff, I was laughing at that. All the stuff he's hit before in the previous movie, that's where I was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that was funny last time. I also found his relationship with the kid, Russell, all over the place. He feels sympathy for the kid, so he kills the one teacher. Then he goes to jail and says, I'm not going to protect you when he needs him the most. Then he feels guilty, so he decides to protect him again. And it's like, make up your mind. What do you feel for this kid? Anything? Vanessa, once again played by Monica Barakin, she was, again, very good. Like I said, the chemistry with Ryan is great. That said, I've heard a lot of people complaining about the fact that she was fridged in this movie, that is, killed off to give the character motivation. And I don't disagree that that's what happened, but I don't necessarily think fridging is a bad thing. I don't think anything should be off limits when you're telling a story. I mean, a relative or loved one getting killed and that person wanting to get revenge or going into a deep depression because of it, it's one of the oldest storytelling ideas of all time. I mean, it shouldn't necessarily be out of bounds just because he's a superhero and she's a woman. I mean, that feels like you're... when the concept of fridging came up, it was being overdone, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea for the story. I think it beats having her kidnapped and being the damsel in distress again, which she did in the previous movie. So it wasn't the best way to deal with the character, but I think it was probably the best that they could come up with, the best option open to them for the sequel. Cable, played by Josh Brolin. I wish he had been introduced first. I wish the first scene in the movie had been him finding his family dead and going back in time. Instead, like the 15-20 minute mark. We're dealing with all of Wade's stuff, and then we're supposed to care about Cable. They should have done that first, and then we could start building the parallels in our mind, because it just kind of like halfway through we have to realize, oh, Cable and Deadpool are going through the same thing. They're the same guy, essentially. I thought he did a fine job acting. He spends all his time kind of squinting and being angry, and there's not much character there. If there was a big problem with this movie, there wasn't a whole lot of character development outside of Wade. Because Cable is such a huge character in the Marvel Universe, I had to keep reminding myself that this was not a Cable Deadpool movie. It was a Deadpool movie co-starring Cable. Cable was supposed to have a smaller part than Deadpool, and I was kind of like, I'm so used to the dynamic and Cable being a bigger star in the comic books that I was kind of like wanting more from Cable. Instead, he's just kind of like the motivating plot device that gets Deadpool going to save the kid. Like I said, he was a fairly one-dimensional character until the end when he realizes that the Juggernaut is a bigger threat, so he decides to team up with Deadpool. He decides to kind of like explain himself and what's going on. Once he started opening up to the other characters, I felt he was a better character. But yes, Thanos is definitely the better performance by Josh Brolin in a superhero movie this year. If they do the X-Force film, hopefully Cable gets a meteor part. Domino, I can't remember the actress's name. It'll appear right here. Man, this is the year for black females in superhero movies because, you know, first Shuri was great in Black Panther and Avengers, and now this actress was wonderful as Domino. And as an aside, that you're probably created by someone who doesn't know how to draw feet was just such a brutal jab at Liefeld. I laughed at that. She had a lot of great charisma. I love that she was the one person who never really got frustrated with Deadpool. Like, everyone else kind of gets fed up with him or has fights with him, but she's just kind of, every time he tries to rile her up, she just kind of blows it off. She's so carefree and happy-go-lucky. She holds her own joke-wise, and every moment she was on screen, I was just captivated by her. She had so much charisma, and I loved Domino. Domino is probably my second favorite character in this film, after Deadpool. Russell, a.k.a. Fire Fist, I like that they used him for some social commentary on superheroes. When was the last time you saw a plus-size superhero? Yeah, I did, kid. Faith from Valiant. But yeah, he was okay. I didn't really have a huge problem with anything he did. And in fact, the whole scene where he's flipping Deadpool off after he got ripped in half, that was probably the hardest I laughed in the whole thing when he does the... It's like, that was such like, what the hell are you doing, kid? It was so out there that I just laughed my ass off at that. The Juggernaut made a good side villain, but honestly, he was just there to distract the B players so that Cable, Deadpool, and Domino could go deal with the kid and the evil preacher. As far as villains go, the problem with this film is that the main villain is apparently an old man. And we don't really deal with him until like the last few minutes of the film. Juggernaut was an okay side villain in that, yeah, he's there, he's dangerous, and we have to deal with him. But I think he was just there to give the other characters something to do. As far as CGI effects go, he worked. I believe that was Ryan Reynolds playing him, too. There were quite a few cameos in this. Brad Pitt as Vanisher, who, by the way, teleports. That's why they call him Vanisher, because he just vanishes. He's not invisible. But whatever. Also, that was Matt Damon. Matt Damon making a second cameo appearance after he did Thor Ragnarok. He played one of the hillbillies under all the makeup with Alan Tudyk. I think the big problem I had was that they brought back so many characters from the previous film, and I don't feel like any of the characters who came back advanced anything in this story. And I never felt like they were really necessary. Colossus, once again, I believe in you, Wade. Oh, you let me down! Just like last film. But I come back because I believe in you again. Don't let me down again, like last film. You know, all right, we get it. Negasonic, I love that she had a girlfriend. You know, that's the first lesbian superhero couple on a movie. Let's do something with that. No, she's just going to stand around and be snarky. Hi, Yukio. Hi, Wade. Okay, that was cute, but, I mean, it didn't really do anything, did it? Weasel, I mean, didn't really serve a purpose. At least Dopender had a thing going on where he wanted to be a mercenary and was trying to follow through on that, but he was kind of cowardly, so at least that was something. That was more than Weasel had. Blind Al, okay, she kind of acts as like the sympathetic mother figure to give him a shoulder to cry on, but so does Colossus, and I don't know if there was enough pain that Deadpool was sharing for two characters. I didn't need to hear him tell two separate characters that it was all his fault Vanessa was dead. I got it the first time. I guess overall my problem is that I think the first half of the film was all over the place. He should either have joined the X-Men and stayed with them, or gone straight to prison and dealt with that after Vanessa's death. That would have been a more focused story. The second half of the film where he forms X-Force, and that X-Force gag was funny, that half of the story is much better told, much more focused story-wise. The Essex School, you know, how he mentions that the X-Men are a metaphor for gay people in the 60s comic books. Well, that school is obviously a metaphor for gay conversion therapy. Hi, Vice President Pence. I.e. torturing someone because they were born wrong. It was a little heavy-handed, but you didn't need a reason for Russell to hate the headmaster, so it works to that effect. My question, though, if Domino went to that school, and she's obviously an adult and was tortured there, and presumably other people who were tortured there left as well, why didn't anybody ever burn that place to the ground beforehand? Why didn't anybody ever report them? Why didn't anybody with these superpowers ever do anything about this school that's torturing mutants if it's been operating that long? Because Domino was a full-grown adult, and she had to have been there when she was a kid. You know, it just... That was a bit of a plot hole, I thought. Am I allowed to say plot hole anymore? I'm not. Okay. So the first half of the plot was all over the place. Some of the recycled jokes came off as a little stale and pointless. And I do wish that they'd done more character development with the supporting cast. That said, I was still laughing. I still enjoyed the film. I don't think it was bad. I just don't think it was great. I don't really feel the need to rush out and see it again like I do Avengers Infinity War. Yeah, but there was a lot of missed potential. I would have liked a tighter right. And there you have it, my friends. The next one we review will probably be Solo: Star Wars Tale. Until then, this is Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, Brian Hines, the Last Angry Geek.